ever bang the gavel. All right, Budget and Finance is called to order at whatever time it is, 5:19. Um, Director Zeitlin, can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Toombs,
Present. Oh,
Councilmember Toombs,
present.
Councilmember Allen, Councilmember Benedict, Councilmember Druffel, Councilmember Glover, Councilmember Mendez, Councilmember Porterfield, Councilmember Roten, Councilmember Sledge, Councilmember Suara, Councilmember Syracuse, Councilmember Vercher, Councilmember Young. You have a quorum.
Fantastic. We're going to go ahead and start with the consent agenda. I'm going to read off the resolutions that are on the agenda. If anything needs to come off, if you could raise your hand. On the consent agenda, Resolution 2021-1063, Resolution 2021-1064, 1065, 1067, 1068, 1070, 1071, 1072, 1073, 1074, 1078, and 1079. Does anything need to come off of the consent agenda? Councilwoman Allen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could we take 1074, 1078, and 1079?
Ten 79.
1074, 78, and 79. Is there anything else that needs to come off of the consent agenda? All right, I will read the captions. Resolution 2021-1063, Toombs, Gamble, Bradford, and Suara approves a substance use disorder grant from the U.S. Department of Justice to the Davidson County Sheriff's Office to serve men with histories of SUD who are housed in DCSO facilities during their period of incarceration and upon reentry into the community. Resolution 2021-1064, Toombs appropriates $120,000 from the juvenile court to various nonprofit organizations selected to receive Community Partnership Fund grants. Resolution 2021-1065, Suara, Toombs, Sledge, and Allen approves amendments to 5 grant contracts for constructing affordable housing approved by Resolution 2019-1861 between the Metro Housing Trust Fund Commission and certain nonprofit organizations. Resolution 2021-1067, Bradford, Toombs, and Murphy approves an amendment to the lease agreement between Metro and the Metro Nashville Airport Authority for office and warehouse space at 1415 Murfreesboro Road. Resolution 2021-1068, Toombs authorizes the Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury claim of Teresa Brown against Metro government in the amount of $19,000. Resolution 2021-1070, Toombs, Van Rees, and Allen appropriates $1,273,580 from the Nashville Public Library to various nonprofit organizations for the provision of free and high-quality after-school programs through the library's Nashville After Zone Alliance program. Resolution 2021-1071, Toombs, Van Rees, Allen, and Suara appropriates $250,000 through a grant contract between the Metro Nashville Public Library and Oasis Center Incorporated to provide college access services for the Opportunity Now program. Resolution 2021-1072, Toombs, Van Rees, Allen, and Suara approves an application for an American Rescue Plan Act grant from the Tennessee State Library and Archives to the Nashville Public Library to upgrade the Limitless Libraries website to foster educational attainment and equity by providing public library materials and services to all public school students and staff. Resolution 2021-1073, Toombs, Van Rees, Bradford, Allen, and Suara approves a totally outstanding teen advocates for the library grant from the Nashville Public Library Foundation to the Nashville Public Library to advocate for the library among their peers and the community at large and to represent the library at community events, meetings, and institutions. That is everything on the consent agenda. Does anything need to come off of the consent agenda? Seeing no hands, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Was there a second? It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to Resolution 2021-1066, Toombs, Gamble, and Allen appropriates $85,000 from the general fund of the General Services District to various nonprofit organizations selected to receive public safety violence reduction pilot grant funds. Can I get a motion? It's been properly moved and seconded. There is a substitute. Yep. Okay. There's a motion to approve the substitute. Is there a second? Been properly moved and seconded. Director Zeitlin, can you explain what the substitute is, please?
Sure. The substitute makes two changes. So first, it removes the $5,000 that was going to the Fountain of Life Ministries to provide anti-gang support for Nashville use, and then it adds 5 new $5,000 appropriations to still standing Hope, Home of Potential and Excellence, Impact Youth Outreach, Transitional Housing and Work Programs of Davidson County, and Gideon's Army. So it increases the total from $85,000 to $105,000.
Did you? No? Okay. Any discussion? Councilwoman Porterfield?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do we know why Fountain of Life Ministries was removed?
I believe they are working on getting their certification from the state. So they didn't qualify just by eligibility.
Thank you so much. And somewhat related question, any organization that wants to apply that has not yet applied, do they still have the opportunity to do so?
I am not involved in the application process.
No worries. I'll check with administration.
I know who to ask.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll get you an answer.
Councilwoman Suara?
Can the nonprofits still apply?
Thank you, Chair. Just clarification, and I may be mixing stuff up, but where is the 1 million pilot? Is that a different
It's a
part?
different one.
Thank you.
Is there any? Councilman Mendez?
I don't know if it's on the substitute or the bill as substituted, but the general fund number that's listed in there, I think it's finance fund number. I guess I'm wondering where the money's being appropriated from.
You're still on.
Yes, this program is being funded by the governor's grant that we received, the $10 million governor's grant. This program was $2 million.
And that got deposited in the fund number that's listed in
I think it's 30096.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
see it
it.
on the, yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
All right, thanks a lot.
Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the substitute? Aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution as substituted?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the resolution as substituted. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Resolution 2021-1069, Toombs and Taylor approves an amendment to a grant from the Tennessee Department of Health to the Metro Board of Health to prepare, respond, and recover from COVID-19. Can I get a motion? It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilwoman Allen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Two questions. I mean, I saw the list of what it had been spent for, and it seems like some of those things, the need may have changed. So sort of what are the main things it's being spent for now, and how much of the original amount is left?
Council Lady Allen. So the funding is over 3 years, and a small amount, 43,000 some odd, was ended up in FY20. Just short of 8 million ended up in FY21. So what's left is 17, a little over 18 million.
is it being spent mostly on testing at this point, or?
Yes, ma'am, it's limited, it's fairly limited in what it can do. We can't use it to buy vaccines or do vaccine work, for instance. It's primarily testing, outreach, education.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Suara.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. When looking at the analysis, it says that we're getting an increase of 26 million this time. And I guess my question is with regards to the 8 million that was spent in FY21. Did we not get that money? I'm just trying to reconcile the description of it.
Mary Jo may know better than I do exactly how that worked. I think we paid ourselves back for some things that were covered by this kind of expenditure that we had used local money for in previous iterations. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. So the eligibility uses do overlap with some of the CRF funds that were used. So we may be reclassifying some of the expenses to this grant to free up some of the CRF. So there may be more savings from the CRF.
That's what I wanted to clarify, because if we're just getting the money now, it means we already spent it, and then we're going to recoup it back. A similar or related question to you is that I see that there's some IDC involved in these grants. How do we allocate those, and where do we put those?
I'm sorry.
Indirect costs.
That is actually through the health department from our CRF funds do not get indirect costs.
I don't know. I can't answer that question. I can find out, though.
Okay. It looks in the details that it says Metro is allowed to get some indirect costs, and it came to about 5 million, which means that should go to Metro for administrative expenses. And so I was just wondering if that is added back into the response, or if that is allocated somewhere else, and if I can get the answer to that.
So I've got, the spreadsheet I've got has about 4.5 million of indirect costs. And I assume they're handled like all other grant indirects, correct, Mary Jo?
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
I'll get with the finance team from health department and see how they're accounting for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Resolution 2021-1064, Taylor, Toombs, and Van Reese approves a grant from One City to the Metro Nashville Parks Department for improvements in Centennial Park and Centennial Park Dog Park. Can I get a motion?
Yes.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councilwoman Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just pulled this off consent because I was interested in knowing what those improvements were. 1074, not 1064, right?
1074.
So it's a resolution accepting a grant from One City for improvements in Centennial Park and Centennial Dog Park.
Good afternoon, Shanita White, Metro Parks. It's for the repair, specifically for any repairs to the dog park, but mainly to the fencing at Centennial Dog Park.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Resolution 2021-1076, Taylor, O'Connell, Toombs, Nash, Allen, and Suara approves a Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation to the Metro Department of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure to conduct a people and data-centered approach to design, implement, and refine tactical urbanism projects and plan for permanent infrastructure with significant community engagement in North Nashville. Can I get a motion? It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Resolution 2021-1077, Toombs, Nash, and Hancock approves a congestion mitigation and air quality improvement grant from the Tennessee Department of Transportation to the Metro Department of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure to implement a modern, fully functional transportation management center to increase the enhancement, management, and maintenance of the Nashville transportation infrastructure. Can I get a motion? It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilwoman Allen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could we just get a little more detail on what the Transportation Management Center would do?
Good afternoon, council members. This would be the traffic management center that would host the technology that would control, would work with all of the fiber outlay that's in our major corridors, would connect to the signals so that we had a more active management position with our signals, both in terms of maintenance but also of operations, be more real time in their performance, and enable us to enhance the safety and efficiency overall of our traffic management system. And it's also, I would offer a reminder that when we talk about a traffic management center, we're not talking about only cars. Cars are only one part of our traffic. We're also talking about how we move people, how we move cyclists, how we move the transit vehicles, and so forth. And so this is about how we manage our crosswalks, how we manage the signals that move all of that kind of traffic through corridors and so forth.
So if I had constituents who were saying, well, this traffic light stays on too long for the cars at 8 o'clock in the morning when the pedestrians need to get across or whatever, this will be the smart enough kind of management that can do real-time
Absolutely.
optimization, taking that kind of thing into account.
Absolutely.
Great.
This will be sort of the nerve center for all that. Obviously, we've got some other projects we'll be bringing forward to you that will accomplish that full and whole and from a system perspective. But this is the nerve center that enables us to do all of that.
Great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Resolution 2021-1078, Toombs, Nash, Bradford, Hancock, and Allen approves a community compost and food waste reduction pilot projects grant from the United States Department of Agriculture to the Metro Nashville Water and Sewer Services Department to reduce food waste going to landfills by piloting a community food scrap drop-off collection program at public Metro facilities. Can I get a motion? It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilwoman Allen.
Thank you. I had a lot of questions today. Could we get someone from whatever the department is called now to talk about what this would do and what this grant would enable us to do?
You're recognized at the podium.
Thank you. Sharon Smith with Metro Water Services, Waste Services. We're real excited about this, and I know this is just the application that's coming before you today, but I hope to be back with the grant contract. One thing that we've realized in trying to really move Nashville towards serious waste reduction and zero waste is that all of our food waste drop-off locations are on the east side of Davidson County, which is great for people that live on the east side of the county, but not so much for everybody else on the west side. And one thing we're trying to do is expand, and Councilmember Allen is one of the folks who's helped us put in one of the very first community composting sites at a church where residents can take food waste from their home, and it's going to be on a specific day during specific times, so it's not, you know, a whole bunch of people just dumping food waste. And then the volunteers there manage that. And it's a really neat model that happens across the country. And what we're hoping to do with this grant is expand those sites out in areas that don't currently have access to food waste drop-offs. But then the thing that we're going to do, if we get this money, that I think is one of the most important things is to look internally and see ways that we can start adding food waste collection in our own Metro buildings. And when I was at Public Works, we piloted it and we had it in our admin building and it worked out really great. I will say that I don't even know what the polite term to use is in such polite company, but we were very careful about who took the food waste from the indoor container out because we didn't want anything to get contaminated. So it took a lot of our sort of us caring very much about it. And so what we want to do, working with this grant, is to find ways that we can get these food waste collection into more Metro government buildings where we can, as Metro government, lead by example and show businesses, restaurants, all the other folks in Davidson County that this is something you can do. You can do it at home. You can compost in your backyard, or you can take it to a drop-off site. You can volunteer at a community compost site. You can have it in your office. And just like 20 years ago when I was talking to council about wanting to see recycling as just another thing that happened and it wasn't special. It was just part of how we lived and managed. That is my goal, that we will start seeing food waste as one of those things that's just a part of what we do every day. You know, we put our food waste in the compost bin or in the collection bin, our recycling in the green cart, and we work together to really try and reduce what we're putting in landfills.
Councilwoman Allen.
One more question. Would that include working with the farmers markets as collection sites as well? I know other cities have made use of that as a model, as a place that you could bring it, you know, on Saturdays when you're coming to get your vegetables, that you could drop off that.
Yeah, that's actually something that could be part of that, although I would strongly suggest we not do it in East Nashville, since they already have so much collection opportunities.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Resolution 2021-1079, Toombs, authorizes the Metro Department of Law to compromise and settle the property damage claim of Vera One City Construction Company against Metro government in the amount of $40,000. Can I get a motion? It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilwoman Allen?
Last question. So this involved something going wrong with, I think, an improperly marked water line. And my question is just, who's in charge of marking the lines? And if it's not Metro, what made us liable in that? I guess that's a Mr. Cross question.
We do marking principally through a contractor, but in this case, I believe it was our documentation that was in error.
That's my question. Thank you.
Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to late file resolutions. First one by Rosenberg, appropriates $850,000 from the general fund of the General Services District for a grant to Community Care Fellowship and authorizing a grant agreement. Can I get a motion? Can I get a second? It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilman Druffel?
Yeah, I'd just like to speak in support of this. I know there was some discussion earlier. There's no doubt homeless is throughout the entire city, but if we don't invest in making adjustments, Ms. Tackett's doing a great job of trying to give us a more strategic plan. But, you know, in this particular, this homeless encampment's been around for 10 plus years. So when you look at not only the health, but some of the long time homeless, it becomes more structurally difficult and challenged to support. So I think this is a great start, but we definitely need more resources to address homeless throughout the city. Thank you.
Councilman Mendez?
Thanks. I support this also, and I'd recommend any viewer to watch the Affordable Housing Committee meeting for this meeting also, because there was a much longer discussion there that's useful. I guess the only thing I would like to add now, with the idea of there may be a recommendation for follow-up on spending later, is, and I appreciate everything the administration, all the council members involved, the Metro departments are working really quickly and diligently trying to do something that's useful and helpful for people who are in need. I do think that some of the things that Ms. Tackett told us at the Affordable Housing Committee about why this one particular encampment would be prioritized and what's going to be done to help folks at other encampments. I think it might be useful to put that in writing and in some sort of memo to the council, because I think there is a risk that I feel from the county-wide perspective, and I was hearing through some of the commentary of district council members during the Affordable Housing Committee, is there's a little bit of a feel of, if you happen to gripe loud enough and get enough media attention from a neighborhood, then you can get action first and fastest and most dollars from the city. And that's a risk that I don't think we want to take. If there's a methodology behind why this is the one encampment that's going first, and what we're going to do about other places. I think committing to that in writing and more of a plan, I think that's what I was hearing a couple council members alluding to before, and I think I don't know who the right person to ask for that is, but I do think there is a risk of incentivizing neighborhoods to just be louder and more efficient with media coverage so they could be next. And I don't think we want that. I do think we want it pursuant to a plan. So I'll just leave that out there for whoever in the administration is here and listening. Thanks.
Councilwoman Suara.
Thank you, Chair. I forgot to mention it during the Affordable Housing Committee meeting, but one of the things that we decided on the sidebar that is a recommendation that there's no need to change the resolution right now because it's just appropriating the money, but the actual contract is where Brookmead was named. And I believe Ms. Tackett also named 2 other locations. And so before the contract is signed, if there is an opportunity to change the contract to actually name the other 2 locations that were mentioned during the meeting, which was Madison, and I can't remember the third one, I think that will be very helpful. So I wanted to put that out there. Let's change the contract and add all the locations that we've identified. Thank you.
Thank you. We will make those adjustments. I believe the second one in Madison has been identified, but the third one is perhaps still in discussions. So, but we can call out the geographic focus at least. I will say, I know that Councilmember Allen asked how you can help churches. Yes, but we are having a launch event for the Landlord Risk Mitigation Fund that was mentioned. In Tennessee, there's no source of income protection for residents, so residents can be discriminated against based on their use of a voucher. And so we're working really hard, getting creative. The team with Judy, United Way, various partners are coming together to try to create sort of a support and network around our landlords that are participating, so we can kind of, in addition to mitigating their risks in accepting a voucher, also provide them with the support and some of the gold stars that we can. The Chamber is helping us source some potential participants, but the event is August 25th. If you have a landlord in your district who would be just interested in learning more, there's no upfront commitment, but just wants to, kind of hear more about the program and get some of their questions answered, please feel free to send their information to me. We are having obviously a smaller group with wanting to be safe in the COVID settings, but so it's not a total call out at this point, but we will do another event if that's needed. So again, the event is August 25th. Please send anyone who's interested to me, hannah.davis@nashville.gov, and we'll get them added to learn more about how they can participate in the housing program.
Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next, late resolution by Toombs approves the terms of a cooperative purchasing master agreement for law enforcement Airbus helicopters. Can I get a motion? It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilwoman Porterfield.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can we have someone from MNPD to speak to the need of the helicopters and what they'll be used for?
Good evening. I've got Captain Kim Walburn, who oversees our Special Operations Division, which oversees the aviation section. I'll address those questions for you.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. The helicopters are going to advance the police department's ability to support the urban search and rescue team. And over the last year, the urban search and rescue team has assisted in the city with lost hikers at Beeman Park, but also outside of Nashville with natural disasters that have taken place in Texas and Florida. It will also advance the abilities of our SWAT team and their ability to respond to emergency situations. We will also put the pilots through training where we will have the ability to rescue individuals off of tall buildings that so many of them are going up around the city, but also deploy officers on the top of those buildings if there was some sort of active shooter incident or something like that. There's a lot of safety advancements. The helicopters that we're flying right now are 1970s era helicopters. And just with the technology and safety advancements that come with time, the helicopters are going to be a lot more modern, a lot more safe for our pilots. Technical questions we can get into if you want to. I have the lieutenant over the section here if you guys have any technical questions about the specifics on the aircraft.
Councilman Mendez.
Thanks. I appreciate that information, and I guess just because I know this is a topic of conversation every time we do the budget season, I want to spend a couple minutes going over some things that have been discussed at previous meetings. First, this spending's already been approved, I think, 2 capital spending plans ago. The administration is shaking their head yes. So this was an approved capital spending plan. This isn't any new approval. This is just approving the actual contract. And then I know when it was in the capital spending plan, we had a deeper conversation about not just the safety considerations of flying 45-plus-year-old helicopters, but also I believe I remember that there was some operating cost savings. And so I appreciate the officers not having laid it on thick in that last answer, but just to, if you could all just recap a little bit about more about the safety issues of flying helicopters that old, and if I'm remembering right that there's operating cost savings with the newer helicopters, I'd be interested in hearing about that also.
So like the captain said, we're currently operating 4 OH-58 helicopters, which we acquired from the military. And the oldest one was built in 1970. The most recent one was 1973. So the cost savings basically were all of these helicopters are moving toward their end of life. Engines are all coming due. The engines are costing somewhere around $345,000 a piece to replace. All of their blades are coming due. They're getting harder and harder to find. Our mechanics are having to come up with new and inventive ways to find parts for these helicopters. As a matter of fact, as we've moved through this process, I've had agencies from across the country that are also flying them call and asking to scavenge parts from our helicopters as we start to cycle them back to the federal government. And my explanation to them is that we're in the same boat they are. The parts that are there are aging, they're harder to come by, and therefore, the supply and demand, everything gets more expensive when that happens. So the new helicopters, the Airbus that we're looking at, the engine life on that is a 5,000-hour engine, soon to be a 6,000-hour engine, which means that our current helicopters that we fly, they're all 3,000-hour engines. So that's going to double the lifespan of those engines on the helicopters. The blades on the current helicopters that we fly are 3,500-hour blades. Those on the OH-58 helicopters, those are $120,000 a blade, and there's 2 blades on that helicopter. So they get replaced every 3,500 hours. The new helicopters, it has 3 blades, and they get replaced every 20,000 hours. So there's going to be a huge cost savings in that. And the cost, the direct operating cost is not going to be that much more for the new helicopters that we're buying. They're a more capable helicopter, they're a safer helicopter, and they just run a lot more efficient. Did that answer your question, sir? I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Councilwoman Suara.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, this is a late file resolution. Is there any reason why it's being late filed and hurried up, or just wanted that clarification? And okay. I may have missed it, but how many helicopters does this cover?
Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Lane. I'm the Chief Procurement Officer for Metro. This is a late filed item. Because we have really been working through this process pretty significantly with the MNPD to receive pricing and specification information from Davenport. We have learned from Davenport that if we're not able to get our purchase order issued on this by the 10th of August, then it's really going to delay our line spot, if you will, for being able to receive our aircraft. This is, not, as they have mentioned, an issue that other municipalities are not encountering. So there are several other municipalities who are in line, if you will, as well, to receive aircraft. And so in order for us to protect our space in line, we've been given a specific date that should we not get this item added to this agenda, we'll find ourselves really potentially looking at close to 9 months to a year out to ensure that we receive the aircraft.
I'm going to go to Councilwoman Porterfield and then to you, Councilwoman Hurd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to make sure I understand that correctly. So because they gave us a certain timeline, we have to do this as a late filed amendment instead of a properly filed amendment. And if we delay this for 2 weeks, we're looking at waiting a year?
I've been in government for 20 years, and I think Mr. Officer Gilder can attest. I don't take it lightly to bring before this body the request for a late filed item. So I've walked through all of these issues, my staff has, with the manufacturer to ensure that this is exactly where we are. And it is exactly where we are. We could take the risk that we bring it to the next council meeting and that we're still going to be able to protect our space in line, but there are no guarantees. As recently as yesterday afternoon, they were telling us there is the potential for this. And this is off of a GSA schedule. So this is an existing contractor through the federal government. There's not really any incentive for them, to give us some incorrect or inaccurate information related to this in order for us to protect our space in line and make sure that we're able to get the equipment that we need given the lead times that are included. And this doesn't just include the aircraft. You may know that when we buy vehicles, I'm going to equate it to vehicles for the police department. There's the purchase of the vehicle, but then there's also an upfitting process. That's also included in here. And there's a consideration for trade-in value for our existing helicopters. There's a lot that goes into it, but if we're not able to go ahead and get that process started by the 10th, and I asked them for an absolute drop-dead date, and that was it, because I wanted to be sure that it was valuable to request that this body consider a late file, and that's what we were given.
So thank you for that information, but I'm still not clear. So we didn't have this information in time for it to be timely filed? Is that what we're saying?
I did not. I did not personally. Now, we do have a process in the procurement division whereby we receive requests for cooperative purchases or purchases against GSA schedules. We received that, and our staff in procurement worked with the police department and with the manufacturer to work through best and final pricing, full specification details, and then to finalize that process, it then has to go to legal for drafting of legislation. So in a normal world, we would just be processing it through and it would show up on the agenda for the next meeting. But because we know what we know about the lead times, we requested the late file.
Okay, thank you.
Director Cornbell.
Yes, hi, it's Kevin Crimbo up here. Hey, so I wanted to not only reiterate some of the things that Councilman Mendez and others have tried to bring forward about the safety and the things that the officers are emphasizing, but specific to the procurement and Council Lady Porterfield's questions, I'm a pilot. I've been on the Airport Authority. I've been working a lot on the rebuild of John 10, and I can tell you from all those experiences, what's being described here in terms of the rush on the aviation industry, particularly the equipment, the avionics and things, that is just the state of the industry globally. The pandemic put a lot of aircraft out of service that were not anticipated. Maintenance is up, replacements are up, and I could go on and on about where it is globally as well as locally, but what's being described here is not unusual, and I can assure you if I thought that there was a way around this, I would have suggested it before now, but I think for the safety of our officers and so forth, we need to recognize just what the state of the industry is and realize that this just couldn't be helped. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hurd.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for recognizing me, being I'm not a member of the committee. So if and when this is approved and you get the new helicopters, what happens to the old ones?
So 2 of the helicopters we purchased, they're MD-500s. We purchased those in 1990. They're going to be trade-in for the new helicopters. So we're trading those in for credit on the purchase of the new helicopters. The OH-58, the military helicopters, once we fly those down in hours where we just can't fly them anymore, we turn those back over to the program that allocated them to us from the military. So we'll just we just turn them back in.
Councilwoman Benedict.
Thank you, Chair. I want to just go back. I'm looking at the amendments packet, the late filed packet, and in regards to the timeline, and I understand the pressures in the industry, and that's fine. My concern is procedurally within our government. I'm looking at, again, the packet, and it shows that on Thursday, May 27th, the best and final pricing was provided by, by the reseller here, or whomever it is, the manufacturer. Anyway, so May 27th that was provided. It looks like it was forwarded again on June 14th. So we're talking about 60 to 45 days ago. And now we're looking at, again, it's something that's been approved before, but I don't like to make such a significant $12.5 million decision late filed when this looks to me, based on 6 weeks and 30 days ago, that this could have, 45 days ago rather, that this could have been presented to us at that time. I guess I'm curious procedurally, and I understood what Ms. Lane said, that we get the best and final, and then it has to go through legal. I just want to understand from the administration, does it take 30 to 45 days or 60 days to get through that legal process before a $12 million contract comes before this committee?
I might ask Ms. Lane to first comment on the timeline.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to speak to that. As you're aware, council member, we've had conversations about our procurement processes. We are managing somewhere around $900 million worth of procurement activity a year. This one, of course, fell within that scope. We processed this as quickly as we could. There were a lot of moving pieces related to this, including the request for council approval that we had to consider. But we did move this as quickly as we could to get it to council. And then I learned within the last week and a half or so, not even a week and a half, that we're looking at August 10th as a drop dead, or that if we didn't get it on this August 3rd agenda, that we would potentially lose our space in line. So we're continually looking at places and ways that we can improve our processes. Continuous improvement is something that I've been focused on in the period of time that I've been the purchasing agent, and we continue to find places where we can improve our process. So to your point, we'll continue to look at our procedures and find ways that we can streamline. But I am here to tell you today that were it not absolutely necessary for us to, bring this request for this purchase and this late file to this body, we would not be doing it. But it is, in my opinion, in the best interest of the Metropolitan government for us to get the best pricing, be in line to receive our aircraft for our police department as quickly as we can, and also ensure that we don't diminish further the trade-in value of the existing helicopters, which happens. The longer they continue to fly them, then the value of the trade-in that we get for those goes down. So if we didn't have that as a place where we are to request this late file, we would not be doing that. But can we improve our processes? Absolutely.
And I appreciate that, Ms. Lane, and absolutely, I really appreciate the work towards continuous improvement. Mm-hmm. I just want to make sure that I understand that this particular supplier absolutely dropped dead after 6 weeks of waiting. Now, all of a sudden, we're under the gun on a timeline such that we need to have a late filed instead of a properly filed. And then I think the legal question as far as how long it takes for us to work through a legal agreement, I think that's also important. Again, when we're talking about significant expenditures like this, making sure that we are intentional and on time with those timelines so that we end up not under the gun making such a large decision at the last minute. Again, thank you, Ms. Lane.
Ms. Lane?
I'd just like to add just one other item to that to bring about a little more clarity. The process that we've used here to make these purchases is one that is, of course, allowed by state law. Anybody who knows me knows I'm a stickler for the rules and the processes, and allowed by the Metro Code. But using this process has allowed us to leverage pricing that we feel very confident puts us in a better financial position, potentially than had we put it out for bid. And the timeline is far more, is shorter than it would have been had we put it out for bid. So the action, of this body is really approval of use of the GSA schedule as is allowed by the Tennessee Code annotated. So I just want to clarify that.
Councilmember, if I can just add one last clarification. I too see the May 27th email date that you saw and correctly noted. If you note who it's between, it appears to be an internal exchange between the Davenport Aviation Company. That gets attached later on, but it hits procurement a month later, June 17th.
Is there any additional discussion on this resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to bills on second reading. Bill 2021-830, Hurt, Toombs, Rutherford, Gamble, and Hancock, amends the Metro Code to delete obsolete provisions and add certain Department of Emergency Communications employees to the Fire and Police Service Pension Plan. Can I get a motion? It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilwoman Hurt, did you want to speak on it?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say that this has been a long time coming. Our 911 dispatchers should be added to our public safety pension plan. The first leg of this was our police and fire departments. And then I think it was about 10 years later, 20 years later, the Sheriff's Department was added. And here now again, about 20 years later, we're now adding the 911 dispatchers. They are our essential first responders. And I'm just asking Budget and Finance if they would approve this to go before the council. We also had Study and Formulating Committee that approved it, and Benefits Board. Shannon Hall and Kevin Crumbo, both who are members of Benefits Board, can speak specifically to personnel and the impact that finance has if you would allow them to make a brief statement. Thank you.
Did you want to add something, Director Crumbo?
Yes, I know Director Hall there is in the back, and if she'd like to address, I'll come behind her.
Good afternoon, everybody. As Council Lady Hurt kind of alluded to, this has been a very long, transparent, and inclusive process. Any benefit changes of this magnitude that originate in Title III of the Metro Code require a pretty extensive review process by several bodies. The first one was the Study and Formulating Committee. That's an independent 5-member body that's appointed once every 5 years to study and possibly make amendments to our system of benefits. In this particular case, Director Martini presented a pretty compelling business case for why these members of the classifications should be included in the public safety pension plan. Just to note, and I think he would probably just, I'm going to try to channel him a bit. These are really the individuals who are answering the calls. What I would say, like in the call center, in the war room, on the floor, that are supporting our citizens and our public safety personnel day in, day out, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So the people that are included in this and have been proposed by E911 and Department of Emergency Communications are really from the trainees all the way up to the managers, but those that are in the war room that are on the floor doing the work themselves. The Study and Formulating Committee did recommend that this be considered by the Employee Benefit Board, who also considered this proposal over several special called meetings, received input from members of the public, emergency communication, and there was a robust discussion by almost every single member of the Employee Benefit Board. After that robust discussion, the Employee Benefit Board recommended approval and inclusion of these classifications at Department of Emergency Communications in the Public Safety Pension Plan without objection. So this is a full recommendation, not a split recommendation coming from the Employee Benefit Board. The cost, obviously, Director Cumbo can speak to, but I would say this has been a full vetted process, a lengthy process, but certainly a lot of input and a lot of good, robust discussion to bring you this consideration for you guys today.
Well, I make a lot of mistakes every day, and following Shannon Hall is about ready to be my biggest one. So thank you, Director, for that. I can't really improve upon the human side of that and all the great things that Director Martini has brought forward here. So if you want the details of that, they're certainly in the records of the Employee Benefits Board meetings that have been mentioned here. In terms of monies, there is no perfect forecast of our entire $4 billion plus pension plan. I'm thrilled to tell you it's a real bright spot for the Metro government. It is actually more than 100% funded, and its trends look very, very good at this moment. Adding the communications worker on that will just have a negligible impact on those investments, the returns, and the way that they go. So if anybody would like to get the full report of those things, they're certainly available through the Benefits Board minutes, but I'm sure all of you take my point that adding our small number of emergency communications workers to that plan will just have a negligible effect. So that's really all I have, Chair.
Thank you, Director Crumbo. Is there any further discussion? Councilman Mendez?
Thanks. I just wanted to follow on Councilmember Hurt's comments and really reiterate that this is overdue. If you go and talk to these folks who are on the front lines answering the phone calls, everybody in the police and fire department consider them to be part of the team, and in a whole city government full of hardworking employees, the answering the 911 calls is one of the most stressful jobs that's out there. You can imagine the calls that they get where it's people in crisis all day, every day, and when you talk to them, you hear that it's very difficult just from a stress point of view to make it all the way to the full pension benefit. A lot of folks are just not able to continue with the job long enough to get the full pension benefit. And this is something that, as Councilmember Hurt said, is overdue. There is a cost. I'm glad it's relatively low compared to the overall pension, but it's definitely the right thing to do to move these employees to the Fire and Police Service pension plan. So I'm glad that this has happened and appreciate everybody who helped make it happen. Thank you.
Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Bill 2021-833/Toombs and Cash approves an amendment to an agreement between Metro Government and Atkinson and Associates Architects Incorporated. Can I get a motion? It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Bills on third reading, Bill 2019-3, Syracuse, Murphy, Van Reese, and others, amends the Metro Code authorizing Metro government to come under the provisions of Tennessee Code and establishing a historic property review board empowered to abate property taxes relating to certain improvements or restorations made to historic properties. Can I get a motion? Is there a second? Is there not a second? I'll second it. Councilman Syracuse, you recognize.
Thank you, Chair. I'll start by saying I sound a whole lot worse than I feel, I promise. And just out of abundance of precaution, I did take a test yesterday, totally negative. Okay, so I have two amendments here. I'd like to move the first one.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Councilman Syracuse, can you say what the first amendment is?
Sure. So this amendment really is not an amendment. It doesn't amend the bill at all or the program. Last week, you all received an email from Hannah with an attachment. And so this amendment is basically an exhibit with that attachment, which is the program guidelines for this, for enacting this program. Technically, we could just enact the state code, and then the Metro Historic Zoning Commission would then have to set the guidelines. But what I wanted to do was go ahead and set those guidelines, work with our Historic Commission, get it in front of those commissioners, which they have now approved. And so this is the amendment, which is basically the exhibit of that approved, those guidelines. So with that, I'd like to move that amendment.
Councilman Mendez.
When I was looking at this today, I guess my first question is, so the commission could change the guidelines whenever they want without the council's input?
Correct, yeah. The commission creates the guidelines themselves.
And I guess I heard from Mr. Jamison, I didn't get a chance to read it myself, that the guidelines, if they stayed without change, would tend to keep the cost of the program down.
Right, it limits, so it sets a value of rehab work. Eligible properties would have to have at least $100,000 of rehab work, but then this is limited to 20 projects in any one application year.
So, and there's no sunset on this. It exists forever until the council would pass an ordinance to discontinue it?
Sunset on which part? The entire program?
Any part of it?
So the abatement for a property only lasts 10 to 15 years, but
No, the legislation has
the
no.
legislation itself, no sunset.
All right. So I have a broader concern that is relevant here. We currently have 3 bills pending, 2 today, and then 1 that we just pushed off till October last meeting. I think Councilmember Allen was the sponsor of that. We have 3 bills pending that tend to take property tax money out of the system before it gets to the general fund. And we currently do that in the form of the LIHTC pilots that MDHA oversees, subject to an annual cap of $2 or $2.5 million a year. And then there's a few other pilots that are out there that get reported on, some 150 pages into the CAFR. And philosophically, for a bunch of folks in the entire government who took 3 years of a bloodletting to raise property tax rates, having multiple pieces of legislation that tend to pull property tax money out of the system before it gets into the general fund is risky if there's not a policy in place saying how much property tax money are we trying to divert into things that are totally worthwhile. And just by way of example, one thing that I tend to not ask about in our public meetings, because I think the answer would freak some people out, is the MDHA LIHTC pilots. While there's a $2 million cap per year, that is cumulative, and we've been at it for 5 years. And so there's probably, I don't know the exact number, but there's somewhere more than 5, less than 10 million a year worth of property tax revenue that is diverted to the MDHA LIHTC programs, going up by 2 million a year. And if you remember that property tax revenue is about $3 million for every 1 cent of property taxes, we've already got 2+ cents worth of property tax money being pulled out for the MDHA LIHTC. If we have other programs, and there's 3 pieces of legislation pending, maybe more coming, that add to this pile, it wouldn't be hard to, after just 3 or 4 or 5 more years, to basically be pulling 10 cents worth of property tax money out of the system before it ever reaches the general fund. And in the absence of a policy of how much money we want to divert before money gets to the general fund and what we want to spend it on, then accumulating a bunch of programs that do that seems risky. I think if you asked most council members, and certainly the mayor, whether they wanted to wake up in 5 years and find that 10 cents worth of property tax money was never making it to the general fund worth of legislation that we passed, some people might be in favor of it because it would tend to double the amount of money we were investing in affordable housing and putting more money into historic projects like this legislation addresses, but cumulatively going piecemeal one-off programs, diverting money from the property taxes before it gets to the general fund without a policy in place, without making decisions, do we want to divert money for historical or affordable housing or something else before it ever hits the general fund and therefore never sees a budget ever again. I just wish that we had a policy in place saying how much money we wanted to divert before it gets to our annual appropriations in the general fund. And so in that context, the idea that the Historical Commission is controlling how far the spigot is open in a policy that we don't have any control over going forward makes me uncomfortable, because they might double it, they might triple it, they might quadruple it. We'll never have a say on it. And the only option then would be to kill the program. I'll stop soon here. It feels similar to, at one point during the Dean administration, the amount of money being pulled out of the system before it got to the general fund for tax increment financing was somewhere around $10 million a year. And then in a matter of only 4 or 5 years, it accelerated straight past $30 million a year in revenue going to TIF. And if we pass 3 bills that are pending, maybe more coming, and wake up in 5 years and find out that cumulatively there's $30–40 million worth of revenue coming out before it gets to the general fund, not subject to appropriation, that, like, none of us should be surprised. And I'm not saying that's bad, but I'm saying that if we're going to start passing legislation to pull money out of the system before it hits the general fund, before it gets to annual appropriations, we should do it pursuant to a policy so we can balance how much we're spending and on what. I'm torn on this because philosophically I really don't like going down the road of what feels like what happened with TIF and without a policy, without having a way to know how much of this is happening annually. While I respect the goal of it. So I really don't know where my vote is on it right now, but that's my concern about this and other legislation that we've got pending. Sorry.
Councilman Mendez.
If finance doesn't need to elaborate because I just went on and on for a long time, but I don't see him disagreeing with that assessment, and maybe if somebody wants to ask him, they can find out, but I don't think they disagree with that.
Councilman Roten.
It's funny that Bob knew exactly what I was about to ask. I was going to ask Mike or someone over there just to give us the administration's opinion on this legislation so we could have it for the record. Thank you.
It's not uncommon that sometimes we'll be working with council members and seeing legislation come through, and our concern is whether or not it complies with state law. In this case, there's no question that Councilman Syracuse has stuck to a T to the exact provisions of the state law. The concern is the state law. You've seen in the analysis the AG's opinion questioning its constitutionality. It's been applied in at least one other city without challenge. And that's as comforting as the status of the state law is, but it does allow the Historic Commission to make some changes to tax receipts that this council would not have control over. And their current guidelines with respect to limitations to 20 is reassuring, but that's current. So I can't underscore enough how patient Councilman Syracuse has been throughout this process. And the second amendment that's coming at least alleviates our initial concerns. I'll let him explain that when we get to it, but that is an amendment requested by the administration that Councilman Syracuse has willingly agreed to and may give us a chance to redress any concerns going down the road.
just to follow up real quick, are there any other programs that we do financing in this manner?
Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there any additional discussion on amendment number 1? Oh, Councilwoman Allen.
I guess I'll speak on the bill once it's amended.
Any additional discussion, Councilman Syracuse?
I just wanted to address the criteria here. It was very intentional to be very conservative on the criteria. You'll note that it's only commercial properties. The amount that you have to invest is $100,000, and you'll notice in the analysis that if all 700 properties that are eligible were to apply for this program all at once, that's $500,000. But there's obviously not all 700 properties. I think there is a real need for this now, be it Second Avenue, be it Morris Building, be it a number of properties. I'll speak to the program in general once we get to the other amendment and the bill, but the time to do this is now. Thank you.
Any additional discussion on amendment number 1? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Councilman Syracuse, do you want to speak to amendment number 2?
Thank you. The only thing that this does, and it's a friendly amendment from the administration, is change the effective date to October 1, and especially given my voice, if I could kick it over to the administration to expand upon the logic of making the effective date October 1.
So the fiscal note has been a bit of a challenge for our office, for the council office, just trying to project what number of people may apply this. The example given in the plan does take a $50,000 investment, which technically wouldn't qualify. The concern, however, is what about the commercial developer that decides to renovate a historic boutique hotel and puts $10 million into it? And those are the scenarios that finance is paid to worry about for you, and we do not have a great handle on as to what significance this could play in the future. So by delaying the effective date until October 1, the council members know that the assessor's office prepares their tax rolls by, I think it's September 15th. Then they send that over to the trustee, and the trustee sends out the tax bills the first week of October. So if this isn't in effect until October 1, you've preserved the FY22 revenues. There may be forthcoming legislation that sets a ceiling, imposes some other limit, perhaps, hopefully not, but perhaps even rescinds this if we should come to more cataclysmic conclusions. But Councilman Syracuse has been very cooperative in allowing us to delay that effective date just so we can continue to kick the tires and make sure we're not walking into some troubling headwinds.
With that, I'd like to move the amendment.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve amendment number 2. Is there any additional discussion on amendment number 2? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Can I get a motion to approve the bill as amended? It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the bill as amended. Any additional discussion? Councilwoman Allen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate Council Member Mendez's big picture. I think that really is important. I know all the time that he spent on the TIF Commission. It gives him a really good viewpoint of how all this affects things. I would like to request that the process be started to create a task force to look at exactly what he's asking for, which is for us to have some group that sits down and says, based on what's important to us, and I think what's important to us changes from every couple of years or every couple of terms. Right now, affordable housing is really important, and that's one of the bills to which you alluded. I think historic preservation is very important. It may go back to green energy in 10 years, and that may be what's important. But I think that his assertion that we need to have a better handle on what our cap for all those programs together ought to be is a good one. I would hate to see what I think is a really important move here especially given the bombing on Second Avenue and the importance of trying to create some tools for the property owners there to be able to afford to preserve some really important historic treasures. So I would request that we consider this. We certainly can make adjustments later if we discover that we have unintended consequences. But I think I don't want the perfect to be the enemy of the good. And I would hope that we will support this, and at the same time begin the process of putting forth some type of policy that says there are certain things that are important that may be worth tax abatements or tax treatments that emphasize those. And here's how much we're willing to spend, either as a percentage of our overall budget or as a fixed amount. That continues to come up, but I think that we can continue to create some really great policies here to do things that are important if we also set that process in place. And I'm not sure if that's an administration process or if that's a budget chair process, but I think the time is here for us to do that. And I would make that request and offer my services if I can help make that happen.
Councilman Mendez.
I guess a comment and a question that I'll start with Mr. Jameson. So just to make sure I understand, the administration is, in order so Councilman Syracuse doesn't run into it being killed forever with another deferral, has asked to push the effective date off a couple months because you guys are still kicking the tires. And if you find something you don't like or you want to tweak, we'll use the 3 meetings between now and then to pass something?
Correct. It's tight, but yeah, that's our timeline.
And I guess nothing's, I mean, if it slides a meeting or two, it would just impact it a week or a month after its effective date?
Correct. Not ideal, but we will do our best.
All right. For the bigger picture, again, I don't, when it was just the LIHTC pilot program with MDHA, I tend to not talk about it in these terms. But if we have, I think the number is somewhere, $6, $7, $8 million worth of money per year that goes, that would otherwise be tax money to the general fund, is off supporting those programs. I voted for every one of them. That's great. There's not a ton of easy visibility into that, and we should know for a body and a government that has resisted tax rate increase by a lot, that money is 2 cents worth of property taxes. And if every piece of legislation that I know about passes, when we go 5 years in the future, instead of 2 cents of property taxes in programs like this, it's going to be something like 13, 14 cents worth of property taxes. And so when people come wanting a property tax increase because there's not enough money to pay employees, and all of a sudden we can't expand bus service and remember that the batch of stuff that we're getting ready to pass in the next couple months probably made a 10 to 15 cent difference on the property tax rate, and like, don't have your feelings hurt when for an extra dime or 15 cents of property taxes, there is a direct relationship to these programs accumulated together on property tax rate and how soon the next one is going to come. Y'all know there's not going to be one in 2022. Y'all know that John Cooper's not going to propose one in 2023. By the time we get to 2024, the rate we passed last year will not be enough to continue increased spending the way that happened last year. So expanding bus service, which everybody wants to do, is not consistent with passing each of the programs that's coming up over the next couple months. And again, I'm not saying it's bad. We just need to know it and be honest with ourselves about what we're doing by diverting property tax revenue for good things. It does impact tax rate over time. And with that, I'm probably going to abstain because my philosophical questions aren't resolved. But I'm not going to vote no. That's it. Thank you.
Councilman Syracuse.
So this effort started at the end of my first term. We all have heard certainly for the past decade, if not more, about how much we have lost of our historic and cultural assets, and how many times have people been asked us fervently, why can't you do anything? That led me to working with planning and our historic commission to look at every single program that we could possibly do, anything that was authorized to that which would require a constitutional amendment. This is the only program that is authorized by our state legislature, which is why we're doing this. So when Councilmember Mendez talks about all these programs, well, there's only one. And it was designed to be very conservative to ensure that it focuses on our most critically, our buildings and our assets that are most at risk. We have 4 buildings on 2nd Avenue that have demo permits requested. Well, perhaps that this is something that could be part of that conversation about ensuring that 2nd Avenue is brought back to the way that it was. We have so many other assets, and if you've read through the program guidelines here, it talks about the investment in our historic properties that has so many benefits, and this is a small drop in the bucket of investment to protect our cultural and historic assets, and so I request that everybody support this. Thank you.
Councilwoman Suara.
Thank you, Chair. I know everybody's ready to go, but I just want to speak in support as well. As someone is look at all the different ways that we can help folks with property taxes that is non-existent because of the state laws, I think every time we have the opportunity to do something, I get the big picture as well. But I don't think we have opportunity to do so many of this. And we're talking about historical properties, we're talking about historical buildings. So I think this is one that we should go ahead and do, and I'm speaking in favor and asking everyone to support as well.
Councilwoman Benedict.
Thank you, Chair. And I didn't anticipate speaking on this one. I also am in support of it. You know, when I think about what's going on in my district, folks are tired of seeing new Nashville take over too quickly. And so they've asked me to put in things like a contextual overlay and slow the growth and keep the growth on our corridors, but contain the growth back in the neighborhoods. To me, we don't really have many historical buildings. We've got a few in District 7, but mostly they're outside of my district. Having said that, the people in my district want to make sure that the taxes that they're paying are going towards keeping Nashville as Nashville has always been. So, you know, slowing the growth. Yes, it's good we're growing, but let's do it with a respect for the history of our city. And in that, you know, as I'm listening to the debate tonight, you know, I completely understand the concerns with what does this mean for future tax revenue? What does this mean for you know, how money is going to get spent in the future? And is this going to snowball out of control? I think the taxpayers in my district would much rather their money go towards something that's protecting the history of our city than for things that they don't feel are accessible to them, that they can't really put their arms around, whether we want to call that TIF or whatever we want to call that, right? What we want to call it, you know, incentive deals. I'm not suggesting that that's the case, but from the mindset of people in the community, to see the dollars go towards something that maintains the history of our city, that's much more tangible to them. And so in that mind and with that regard, I think it would be, I think I'm representing my people best by supporting this legislation. Thank you.
Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? One abstention. Motion carries. Bill 2019-49, Syracuse, O'Connell, Allen, Suara, and Bradford authorizes a property tax exemption for historic properties owned by charitable institutions in accordance with Tennessee Code annotated. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
It's been properly moved and seconded. On to discussion. Councilman Syracuse.
Thank you, Chair. So I can kind of consider this a companion bill, if you will, to 2019-3. As I mentioned, when I looked at all authorized programs, these are the only two. This program here may only be used probably twice in a decade. I'm not really sure. But it's very narrow, and there was just no reason not to go ahead and also allow this extra exemption of properties used for income-producing purposes that are owned by nonprofit organizations. So with that, I ask your support. Thank you.
Councilman Mendez.
Well, so we're up to 2, not 1. The fiscal note on this says basically no idea. I'm going to abstain on this one too. It's the second of 4 that I know about that dip into property tax revenue before it hits the general fund, and the fiscal note says we just don't know what it is. I do very much appreciate Councilman Syracuse's work on this and the administration's, and take him at his word that that it's not that many. I don't know. I mean, that sounds right, but bottom line, we don't know. So I'll abstain on this one too. Thank you.
Councilwoman Suara.
Thank you, Chair. I want to paint another bigger picture. Right now, we have a lot of non-profits in our community that provide affordable housing, but they don't get a tax exemption. And many of them are at the brink of losing those affordable housing that they provide. There are 2 organizations that are talking to me about, we cannot raise the rent. We have to charge very low rents, but our property value is going up and we're paying taxes. I say all of that to be able to say that for our charitable organization, for a non-for-profit that are trying to help, the property taxes is a ding to them. And some of them are at the point of even losing those houses. So now this I'm overwhelmingly in support of, because it allows at least those that have historical properties to be able to get some help and at least keep that in use. So thank you.
Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? 1 abstention. Motion carries. Did I miss anything? That concludes our agenda for this evening. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.